Hey, welcome to the Elle Russ Show, where we explore ways to get healthy, wealthy, and wise. With a combination of guest interviews and solo episodes, I hope you will be inspired and motivated to become the best of whatever you are. I'm Elle Russ, #1 best-selling author and subject expert with over a decade of helping thousands of people across the globe. Visit my website, elleruss.com, to learn more about free guides, masterclasses, online courses, and more. Enjoy the show. All right, weight loss part 2. So we're going to talk today about exercise. We're going to talk a little bit more about food. I want to explain a little bit more about paleo. So let's just look at the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. And what do I mean by that? So if you're not familiar with evolution, you as a human, we have, as a species, we've been evolving for 2.5 million years. When we look back, like when they find remains of humans like us, like quote, modern humans, I don't mean modern like we're driving cars modern, but just modern in the grand scheme of the timeline. Humans that existed like 120,000 years ago were like us. They weren't barbaric. I mean, I'm not saying they had human rights, but you know what I'm saying? They had language. They weren't like, duh. They weren't like what you see when you're like some dumb caveman who's like not even fully evolved, right? So, and we have the same DNA makeup as a hunter-gatherer ancestor like 50,000 years ago. What did they do? Well, they were active for many hours a day, right? They were hunting, gathering, walking, hiking, foraging. And so that lifestyle, what does that provide? That's improved fat metabolism because those are walking at a steady pace kind of thing with brief bouts of sprinting, like for the hunting, or in case you had to run away from something, right? And those are the baseline of primal exercise. It's, walk at a steady, nice pace, get enough walking in, and then once or twice a week, do a sprint session. You know what I mean? Those quick bursts. When you are on the treadmill running every day, 5 miles, what you're doing is you are exercising at a heart rate that is usually glycolytic, meaning it's burning the sugar. We don't want to do that. When you burn all your reserves of the glucose, then you're going to crave it. The idea of the paleo-primal, low-carb ancestral paradigm is to not only allow you to be insulin sensitive because of the low carb count, but also sustained through burning fat, not sustained through burning glucose. So one of the ways to do that is to go slower. One of the things I always talk about in my personal experience is I'm a hiker, but I used to hike pretty fast, kind of thinking that you have to like no pain, no gain. It's got to suck and not be fun and going to be hard if you want to get your heart rate up, if you want to lose weight. It turns out that wasn't the move because after each hike, I'd kind of be tired and hungry because I had just depleted all of my glucose stores. But when I started hiking at a better heart rate, the fat burning heart rate, best way to determine that on a just an offhand level is to do 180 minus whatever age you are. Okay, so 180 minus your age. And then from there, whatever that number is, you try not to go above that, unless, of course, you're doing a sprint session a couple times a week or something like that. So what this does is then it allows your body to start to go, oh, we're going to burn fat as fuel, not carbohydrates. And so that's why the lifestyle component that I mentioned last week in part 1, there's a lifestyle component. You can eat all you want from a paleo food list, but if you're still doing glycolytic workouts every day, it's not going to work out. So that's the biggest misconception about paleo, is that people think it's just a food list. So we're so sedentary, right? Irregular structured workouts are really not enough to even counteract the negative effects of these prolonged sedentary periods. We're commuting, desk jobs. So can you stand? Do you know what I mean? Can you get a sit-stand desk at home? Can you put a box on top of can you stand while you're watching a TV show? Can you, clear out a cabinet while you're watching a TV show in the living room and you're standing? You know what I mean? Can you have a conversation on the phone and stand and pace? Any little extra whatevers, do it. Going and working out for an hour in the morning and then sitting all day, not the move. Better than doing nothing, but it's not the move. So one of the misconceptions too about exercise is this chronic cardio, which, Mark Sisson coined that phrase, chronic cardio. And it's too frequently, too intensely for too long, and that leads to fatigue and burnout, and again leads to you exercising at a glycolytic rate where you're burning the glucose, you're not burning the fat. So that is why you see the person that's like, gotta go haul ass on the spin bike today because of all that shit I ate yesterday. When you're primal, you don't need to play those fucking games because you're not a sugar burner, you're a fat burner. All right. I discuss this also in my free thyroid guide. Even if you don't have a thyroid problem, you can go to free thyroid guide, download the guide. It's got some paleo recipes. It also has some excerpts from my book about, sugar burner versus fat burner. And I also have a podcast on that as well. You could just take a search. So low intensity, basic movement, more of that rather than these, structured workouts and over relying on them. That's going to really be promoting better health. Playing with your dog in the yard is probably going to do more for you than a bunch of planks, and that's the end of your day. So let me just like, if you're like, where do I start? So if you're already an exerciser, then like, you know what you're doing pretty much. Unless you're doing chronic cardio. So how do you move out of that? Well, you need to go to slower pace. It's going to feel wrong. It's going to feel counterintuitive. I used to think if I'm going to torch some fat, I'm going to go to hot yoga 5 days a week. That will make you fatter. It's an adrenal igniter. It's glycolytic. You're going to be hungry and tired later. So all of these things, this mentality of, well, if I'm not sweating my ass off and like killing myself, I'm not going to ever lose the weight. Or if I don't work out every day, then I get fat. You're on the wrong eating paradigm and exercise paradigm if that's the case. Because what everyone notices is when you're able to get fat adapted, and if you heard weight loss part one, I talked about some of the things that could be hindering that, like thyroid, hormonal imbalance. Okay, but short of that, say you don't have any of those problems, and it's 80% of your body composition. How it looks is diet. The other 10% can be genetics, another 10% can be, other things, random, but it's really your diet. It's what you put in your mouth. That's why someone can lose 40 pounds by sitting in a wheelchair. So it's changing this food paradigm. Once you change that and you get more satiated, then you can exercise. And I suggest slow and low. Like, what's a good way to start? Well, 3.0 on a treadmill for 30 minutes. It's really a low pace. If you did that and then 15 minutes of weightlifting, what do I mean by weightlifting? Let's say you're new to it. Listen, don't hurt yourself. You're not gonna get ripped in 2 days. Just start with 4 pound weights and do, this is gonna be dumb stuff, guys. Sometimes I just do the dumb stuff. I mean, sometimes I'm not motivated to do it. I go through phases too where I'm like, oh damn, I gotta lift some weights. So you could just do 10, 15 reps of bicep curls, tricep curls. You could do a couple of sit-ups, like literally 15 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes. If you have no idea how to do any of this stuff and you don't want to go to a gym, I get it. I get it. There's a great YouTube channel. Shit, what is it called? I can't believe I'm gonna forget this right now because I love these guys. Um, Hold on, I gotta find it. That's just can't even believe. Oh, it's like fit. All right, hold on. I am going to pause this so I can find it. Here's what it is. Sorry about that. Okay, it's a channel on YouTube. They've been around forever called Fitness Blender. Okay. Now, I'm gonna give one caveat. I disagree with everything they have to say about any kind of food advice. They are still on the carb up program, but their workout videos are amazing. They have no music. You could put it on silent. You can literally, there's so many free ones, and they have a membership. And if you join, I think it's like $11 a month or something. Like, so it doesn't have to cost anything if you do the free YouTube videos, but just 15 minutes of one of those videos. Do you know what I mean? So that's 45 minutes a day we're talking about, right? 30-minute walk on the treadmill, 15 minutes of weight. Maybe it's 20 minutes on the treadmill and 20 minutes of weights. And you can start off slow. Just start to get used to it because you know what? Your arms are going to be sore the next day. Then don't do it the next day. So for the first time, you do it 3 times a week. And then you can see one day, am I going to do upper body? Oh, tomorrow I'll do squats and legs, and you can alternate and all of that. One of the biggest misconceptions, too, and this confused me so much way back in the day, With paleo-primal, once you get fat adapted and you're on this paradigm, you do not need to worry about this bullshit about like, well, make sure you eat before the exercise and then afterwards, within an hour, make sure you eat protein. You do not have to worry about your muscles wasting because you're not a sugar burner anymore. When you turn over to being a fat burner, you can go work out, lift weights, and not eat for 4 hours. It's not a big deal. If you really are trying to gain muscle, like you're doing a bikini body competition, then yeah, you would want to do different strategies. You would want to eat probably within that hour and maybe eat protein. I'm not a personal trainer nor a, fitness competitor, but obviously that would be a whole different ballgame. So for the most part, how's your day? Like, how do you do this, right? Don't worry about food with when you work out. You work out when you can. My preferred, I'm the person that I'm want to do nothing towards the end of the day. Like I don't want to think, I don't want to hang out. I don't want to work out at 4 p.m. Sometimes I do go on a walk with my dog though in the evening if I get motivated, but I don't want to like work out, lift weights, do any like major activity in the evening. So for me, it's morning. So I get up, I have coffee, black coffee, fasted. Sometimes I will have a little sugar in it, um, hang out. Then I usually go walk my dog. I come back, then I lift weights. I might sauna. Um, I just do it at home. I belonged to gym for years, and since the pandemic, I'm like, what am I doing wasting all this money at the gym when I could just do it at home? So, but I understand there's a certain level though that's nice about the gym where there's certain machines, and if you're a guy and you want to bench a certain amount, like it's just, yeah, it's hard to have a home gym. For me, I use what are called adjustable dumbbells. So it's a stack of dumbbells that range from, like 2 pounds to 24. And so you can adjust them. You can just throw them right under the bed. They're really great. So Fit in a Splendor, great YouTube channel for free workout videos. I disagree with anything they have to say about health. Their website, though, also has a really easy, super easy way to join, and it's like $11 a month, and then you don't have to watch ads and you get access to all their videos. And I do think they have meal plans and stuff, but again, I do not recommend that at all. I believe they're on the wrong paradigm. Exercise videos, though, are great. I know men and women who love it because it's a couple, this male and female, and he does a bunch and then she does a bunch. They do some together. So if you're a dude too, I know a lot of big dudes that love the Fitness Blender workouts. So these are like free, easy ways to get started. Here's the truth. It's just a forcers when you start. Even if I've gone off, not the rails, but gone off a bit, and I'm like, oh, I need to get back, it can be hard for anybody. Um, Back when I hosted the Primal Blueprint podcast, I interviewed Gabrielle Reese, who also kindly wrote a great review of the paleo thyroid solution. But she's a fucking athlete, and she even talked about how sometimes it's a daily struggle for her to motivate to exercise. Okay. These are just commitments you make. You always feel better afterwards. The biggest problem is that people want to go too big too soon. I'm going to start a new workout plan. So therefore, I'm also going to do the diet. I'm also going to, if your problem is exercise, just start there. Eliminate some shitty oils. Don't go crazy with thinking you need to restrict any food. Okay, you're still eating grains. All right, I don't recommend it, but maybe you cut out gluten, stick with rice. You can make stager changes, little stages of changes. Um, so, okay, you're like, I don't even, my issue is not that it's food, or my issue is not that it's the working out. So get the food right and then motivate to do the working out. Once you just do it once, even if you haven't lifted weights, just do the 30 minutes on the treadmill or, a walk around the block or whatever you can do. If you have nowhere to go, you're in the tundra in Minnesota. Do you need to drive to a mall? Look, I have a friend here that's 35 years old. He's fit and in shape, but he likes to wake up late. And so in the summer, man, the past couple 3 months here were scorchers. It was like 100 degrees almost every day. So by the time he woke up, he'd already be fogged all the way until night, and it was just too hot for him to go walk. So he would drive to a mall and go walk around the mall. I'm sure you've heard this before. I'm not introducing anything brilliant, but if you haven't, like, there are ways to do this. Um, Home treadmills, you can get a cheap foldable treadmill. My fiance has one. I mean, I don't know. I think it might have even only been like $100. Okay. Like he jogs on it. I mean, is it going to sustain a marathon prep preparatory training regimen? No. But, do you just need to walk on a treadmill? You can fold it up and put it in the closet. So there are so many ways to do this that are not that expensive. And also, if you don't have anything, Fitness Blender has some good videos because not only are they weight training, they have some cardio ones that you can just do at home standing there, right? So, having a private dance party, I get accidental exercise by going into my bathroom at night. I'll turn off all the lights and have like a candle in there, and I'm dancing. It's such good exercise. It's so much fun. I get actually pretty sweaty, but I'm not doing it to work out. I'm doing it because I want to fucking dance. So, what's fun for you too that you can do that might be exercise? All right. So, how much do you really need to do? When you're on a paleo primal paradigm, it can take 21 to 30 days to really turn your brain around from being addicted to glucose being the primary fuel and switching it over to preferring fat as your main fuel. So, does that mean you need to go ingest a bunch of extra fat? No, you don't. You can get fat on a low carb diet. If you eat more fat than you're burning. The idea is that you want to be in fat burning mode. So you do that with diet by switching to be a fat burner. And then you also do it by mitigating these lifestyle and exercise issues I talked about, like not doing the chronic cardio or, all this kind of stuff. And lifting heavy weights is the move. It's extra the move when you're 40 or over. So I really noticed this difference that you could get away with so much more or working out less or have like really cut arms or all this kind of stuff when you're younger. And then there comes a point where you're like, oh, okay. And at that point, the cardio needs to go down even further and the weights need to go up. That's what's really going to shape your body. And hopefully everyone knows by now that lifting heavy weights for a woman is not going to make you buff. In order to get buff, like the buff chicks that you see, like some of them have said, I'd like to see you try, right? That's going to be a heavy level of dedication and lifting that you're not going to be doing as an everyday person just trying to stay fit. So if we look at the grand scheme of life and you're talking about 45 minutes a day, now, should you do more than that? You look, yeah, I mean, it is more ideal. 10,000 steps a day is really ideal. And that's usually more than 30 minutes, right? Are you getting them in other ways, though? Are you getting them because you're standing during work, standing, cooking, standing, and walking around your house on a phone call? Sure, but you really do. Yeah, you want to shoot for the steps. I mean, the 10,000 steps was arbitrary to begin with. It can be more than that. I mean, look, 15,000 steps a day is super primal. It was probably even more than that. And so let's say though you're like, I'm injured. I've got a fucking my knee's busted. I just had hip replacement. I'm in a wheelchair because I'm suffering with this. You then go to just the paradigm. That's your move. Because again, 80% of the body composition is diet. That's why you can lose 40 pounds in a wheelchair. You'll lose the weight, you'll burn the fat. You won't get toned necessarily if you're not exercising, right? I mean, it'll appear to be more toned if you're losing fat around your muscles, and then it's clearly going to look better. So that's the only downside. Other than that, you can still do it. So I hate that people think that they need to do this old, awful, shitty paradigm of restrictive eating like they do in the Biggest Loser shows, which never ever gets sustained. That's why those people gain the weight back. And that somehow losing weight has to be a suffering thing. It is so the opposite, and I'm not selling you garbage. It's really true. This is why paleo-primal is the move. It's why it is the ultimate. It really is the ultimate. Why is it also the ultimate? It is aligned with our DNA as humans, period. 70% of the food that's like out there was not even around at a certain point. So now, do you have to get crazy with paleo? Does everything need to be grass-fed? Do you need to, are you drinking raw milk? No, don't drink raw milk. If you want to drink raw milk, go ahead. I'm not a fan. That's not to me very primal and ancestral. We would not have found animals to milk continually to have that every day. Do you need to go carnivore? Is that really the true human? No, we weren't fully carnivores. We're omnivores. We would run into carbs. Okay, so yes, the proper human diet, the perfect human diet. Great documentary, by the way. is being an omnivore. We're eating things that had parents, we're eating plants and animals. However, your toleration of these things is a whole nother story. The people that have had to go carnivore for health reasons can't even eat a piece of lettuce or they're fucked. Can't even have a nut or now they break out in welts. So obviously, this is all the individual. Carnivore is the extreme move for people with unsolvable food reactions, really, uh, and autoimmune diseases. So, people have noticed, or let's say that someone has eczema, they went paleo, things helped a bit, but it never fully went away. Then they went carnivore, then it went away. For some people, eliminating all plant matter is the move. Usually, carnivores end up doing strict carnivore, and then they end up going and introducing berries or honey or some other elements into it. It's not it's not wonderfully sustainable. I mean, it's sustainable, but I'm not sure that that's the right answer either. It's one of these things where it's like keto. Keto to me, look, one of the keto gains guys, Louis Villasenor, he's been keto for like 20 years. He's got no problems. He's doing great. Um, Do I think, though, in general, it's sustainable for that long period of time, or should it be? Only if you want to. And the caveat would really be, do you have a health issue that requires it? Is there epilepsy? Is there cancer? Is there something that might dictate full keto continually? Sure. But short of those things, do you need to be crazy about any of these modalities? Not at all. Can you be paleo and then go fucking binge some grains? Enjoy yourself as long as you don't have an autoimmune disorder and there's gluten in it. I don't recommend doing that often. So what can you do to pump this up? Either you have to dial in the food and the carbs, or you have to step up the exercise, or both. Let's talk about supplements for a second. Um, if you can tolerate whey protein, whey isolate is a way to get extra protein in your diet, especially if you're like, oh, I can't eat that much protein, I can't stomach it, or I'm just not hungry for it. Having a shake midday with whey protein in it is great. You can add some creatine in there too if you want to try to gain lean muscle mass and improve your brain health past, 45, 50. And look, getting a good multivitamin. Do you have an MTHFR mutation? You might need to go check your MTHFR out and get that tested because that has a lot to do with digestion, methylation, mood, everything. There are so many dumb biohacks that are just optimizing a nutrient. Just like, are you a woman and you're low in iron and that's your fucking problem? That's why you don't have the energy to work out. Do you know what I mean? Um, so a good multivitamin. Um, Once you go paleo primal, we talked about some gut issues last time and some things you can do for gut health on weight loss part one. But assuming like your gut is good and things start to clear up doing paleo primal, your stomach and your bowel movements are regular, and you're like, okay, then honestly, you don't even really need to exercise until you feel motivated to do so. So if you can just follow the paradigm, which is really just the elimination of shitty things and making sure, because people go, how much protein should I have? Well, as an adult, I would say over 50 grams a day, sometimes up to 120. It depends. Are you a big dude and are you like working to build muscle for something? Are you 5 feet 2 inches tall like me? I still have to make the effort. There was a certain period of time where I couldn't eat as much protein as I used to, and that became a problem, and I had to start to force myself to eat more. Currently, it's still an issue. Like I have to force myself to eat more protein. I never thought I'd say that because I feel like I could eat meat all day long before. So as you get older, particularly, in your 40s and 50s, you really, really do need to focus on the protein. And so becoming maybe more carnivore paleo in that stage of life could be beneficial. And I'm not talking about keto. So, what are some, the definitive book on this really is The Primal Blueprint by Mark Sisson. I think it's in its fourth or fifth edition. I think the fourth edition. You can go on Amazon, you can buy that book. That's really the definitive paleo primal. The other thing you can do is go and, let's see, the Primal Blueprint podcast was on for many, many years. Mark and Brad used to host it, Mark Sisson and Brad Kearns. Then I hosted it. So, the first 14 episodes of that, which are going to be kind of hard to find, but here, I'll tell you how to do it. The first 14 episodes of that are Mark Sisson and Brad Kearns detailing paleo-primal living. And so the best way to do it would be go to Google and just Google Primal Blueprint episode number 1, Primal Blueprint episode number 2. It'll take you to a website, blog.primalblueprint.com, but it's in order of last. So like the first episode you see if you went to that website would be the last episode I did for the show with Mark Sisson. You need to go back to the first 14. It's just going to be easier to Google it, and there should still be up there to listen to. That is the best, freest, quickest way to get a whole paleo primal tutorial other than buying a book. So go check that out. If you're interested in keto, I also recommend Mark Sisson and Brad Kearns' book, The Keto Reset Diet. You kind of go through paleo primal. They sort of give you a test in the book that's like, are you or are you not ready to go keto? And by the way, if you're thinking about going keto, you don't just go keto. It's going to kick your ass and it's going to suck. It is smarter to do it the way Brad and Mark are suggesting. Get paleo fat adapted first. You earn the right then. What do they mean by earn the right? You've oiled your metabolic machinery to a point where it's ready to receive what keto can do to it. And so I think that they explain that brilliantly in the Keto Reset Diet. But honestly, the Primal Blueprint is a great book, or those first 14, 15 episodes of the Primal Blueprint podcast, now discontinued. It's now the Primal Kitchen podcast because Primal Kitchen, which was Mark Sisson's company, was bought by Kraft Heinz. All right. So here's the thing. Hopefully this is motivating you a bit. It's so much easier than I made it out to be for many, many years. I thought I'd have to go to Overeaters Anonymous. I thought something was inherently wrong with me. I never thought I'd not be food obsessed. You get fat adapted and you follow a paleo primal paradigm for a month, you will get fat adapted. And that, I'm of course short of thyroid problems, blah, blah, blah. You will get fat adapted and you will see how satiated you are, what a different world it is, how much less you're eating. You'll notice you wake up in the morning, you're not hungry. If you're not hungry already in the morning, that's fine. Paleo primal is about eating when you're hungry. You don't have to worry about these quote unquote rules about when to eat, like I mentioned previously in this episode. Like, oh, you go work out. Now you've got to eat within an hour. You should have a carb shake before the workout and then after workout. Listen, unless you're like an Olympic athlete, you don't need to worry about that crap. And in general, there are no rules. There are a bunch of rules though when you're a fucking glycolytic sugar burner. And that's why that life sucks. That's what I used to be. I was your chronic cardio. I'm going to go binge. Then I'm going to go try to burn it off. Every day I'm trying to balance the next day or what I can get away with. And now you paleo primal, you go fat adapt and you go several days without working out and you're fine as long as you're just eating primal. I mean, you might get a little soft, right? If you're not working out, but you're not going to gain weight. That's not true for sugar burners. And it's such a shitty diet. This fucking rice cakes and fucking like this the carb diet is so not satiating. It's so crazy making. It gives you hypoglycemia. I remember just having freakouts in the car from Hollywood to Malibu, like 45-minute drive. I'd have to pull over, go to a grocery store, be hangry. My fucking brain would be like shutting down. I'm like, ah. I mean, that sucked. So that eat every 2-3 hours, that zone diet, South Beach, all that stuff crap. It's garbage. You got to go to an ancestral model. Eat as your body and DNA has prescribed you to eat. I always say you've never cooked up a tri-tip and fed it to a horse. You haven't done that because a horse's diet is hay and carrots and whatnot, right? It has its own set of DNA. A cow, same thing. Man, they can process fucking cellulose and grass like nobody's business, but you and I would fucking die if all we did was eat grass. It's what's prescribed to you by your DNA. The other point on this is how vegans and vegetarians suffer as a result of not eating meat because they're not getting B12, which is why they have to supplement with it. They wouldn't have to supplement with B12 if it weren't prescriptive that they eat meat, but they're choosing not to. That's fine. So then they must supplement. Same thing with amino acids, especially if they're a vegan, but in vegetarian. But yeah, like you need to supplement the things you're taking away. Why is that? Because your DNA says you need to fucking eat meat. You're not going to get that B12 from nature. That's why the vegans and vegetarians take B12. I mean, also I take methyl B12 folate because I have an MTHFR mutation, but if I didn't, I'd certainly be getting enough of the substance from the meat that I eat. So again, that's not to belittle the choice to become vegan or vegetarian. It's to recognize that that choice is going against your DNA, and that is a choice you're making that could come with some negative consequences. And so you must do what you can to shore up any shortcomings. Listen, everyone can do this, but like I said in part one, if you have done it all and you're struggling, okay, and it's not the food and you're doing all the things, then it's something else. Is it autoimmune, inflammatory? Is it gut issues? Is it some kind of other inflammatory situation? Is it hypothyroidism? Is it some hormonal imbalance? Are you just depleted? And therefore, that's why you can't get gains and you can't, get lean muscle mass. So many things to look at, all repairable. And I just want to let everyone know I used to stress out every day about working out. It used to be such a fucking thing. I used to feel like I used to have so much energy to go do it. I would go do it when I didn't even have the energy. Like it was such a stressful thing. I am so glad to be off that hamster wheel. This is such a better life. I barely think about food. It's 9 a.m. right now that I'm recording this. I've been up since 6. I've just had coffee. I also already went on an hour walk. I'm not hungry and I probably won't eat until 12. That's fine. You don't have to mimic that. I'm naturally an intermittent faster. Uh, you don't need to do intermittent fasting. You do it when it's natural. Go paleo first. Try to eat 3 meals a day, right? If you're not hungry in the morning suddenly, you go with that. Gee, suddenly I don't want a big omelet for breakfast. Okay, good. Do you just want a bite? Just want one egg? Do you want nothing? It's okay to have nothing. You follow your hunger. For example, it's 9 a.m. I'm not hungry, but if I do suddenly get hungry in an hour, which would kind of bum me out because I don't like to eat before 12, I would still eat. There's mornings where I get up at 4 a.m. Well, then I'm probably going to be eating my 1 p.m. lunch at, 11. So every day is different. I do honor my hunger. I am a natural intermittent faster. I've never been a huge fan of breakfast, but if I wake up and I'm fucking hungry, I'm going to go to town. The other day, I was up at 4 a.m. By 10:30 a.m., I was ready for brunch. I don't ever eat big brunch breakfast kind of things ever. Went out and I went to town. Went to town on some lox and gluten-free bagels, just cream cheese, the whole thing. Just went to town. It was absolutely delicious. The rest of the day, I was kind of like, oh, okay, that didn't feel maybe great to be that full. I'd prefer that feeling in the evening. But again, I was just honoring my hunger, so I switched it up that day. You know what I mean? So it's about honoring your hunger. But right now, if you're a sugar burner, then you're just craving everything. You don't trust yourself and go, well, my body says I need donuts. I want to talk also because I mentioned, let me end on this. I mentioned last week I'd give tips on how to have dessert without being an asshole, which was an Instagram live I did with my friend Elizabeth Resnick, who has a couple great cookbooks and is a weight loss coach. And so what can you do? Well, the best way to get off of crappy crap sugar is to have fruit and whipped cream. And if you can't do the heavy whipping cream because of that dairy part, although it's low in casein, then you can always whip coconut cream. So you can get a can of coconut milk. You put it in the fridge overnight. You open it. You kind of dump some of the water out of there. That's it's gelled up on one side and there's liquid. You can pour some liquid out and you can put it into a KitchenAid mixer and whip it like you do regular whipped cream. You can put some lemon zest in there. You could put vanilla in there, like whatever it is that you want. And then have a bowl of fruit and whipped cream. That's going to start to train your palate. At first, it's not going to be sweet enough. After a couple of days, it's going to be very sweet. A little bit of peanut butter and some natural jam. Um, Fruit with little chocolate chips in there. 80 like dark chocolate chips. You could do that. Put a little one in each raspberry. I'm a big fan of the fruit and whipped cream or fruit because it's still sugar, but it also is training your palate for that to be the sweet so that then dessert to you that you want in, 3 weeks down the road, it's gonna be. And maybe this time it's fruit, it's whipped cream. Maybe this time you put nuts on it and seeds. I don't know. Maybe you put honey. I don't care what you do there. I'd rather have you eat a bowl of that shit than a bowl of Twinkies, right? So fruit and whipped cream is a great move. Another move too, but let's say you're like, but I want a fucking jelly donut. Well, it's like, yeah, okay, well, can you take like a gluten-free bagel, uh, peel out some of it, put a bunch of strawberry jam in there, with some fucking whipped cream and shit, and kind of makeshift your own, strawberry shortcake, right? Like there's ways to kind of mitigate some of the absolute garbage out there. That's not to say that, a piece of real cake every once in a while is going to kill you. I go to town on cake. I love that shit. Yeah, I'll do it. But the at-home regular uh, about town kind of diet, fruit and whipped cream is a great one. Nuts and honey, another one people love. There's so many good ones. You can make your own sort of mousse with some avocado and some cacao. There's some great recipes in my fun paleo recipes cookbook. And then there's this other dessert that Elizabeth makes, and you can just probably chat GPT it, it's out there, but you make brownies, but you really cook the shit out of sweet potatoes. And then that sweet potato mixed with the chocolate and the other stuff, it feels like it's all chocolate and bready, but it's not. There's so many ways to have thick consistencies not be crappy. So let's see, I interviewed an Italian paleo author many years ago. It's a great cookbook, paleo Italian cookbook, but Cindy's Table, I believe is her website. Cindy's Table, and she's got like 800 paleo recipes on there for free. I think you can just search by paleo recipes, but she's got a ton of recipes in there and a ton of paleo. And when you start off with this, I don't suggest doing paleo granolas, paleo cookies, grain-free pizzas, and things like this. Just stick to things that aren't packaged. Stick to the real food stuff. But if you do want to splurge and, it's been a couple weeks and you're like, I do feel like pizza, it's fine. Go get Capello's, which is grain-free pizza. Go get a gluten-free pizza, which might still have grains, but at least it'll be gluten-free. So there are ways to do it, but I still stay away from the gluten-free pastas, the granolas. Nuts are a tough one at first. You don't want to keep snacking on nuts in the first month of going paleo. You can overdo it. You might not burn as much fat. They're very calorically dense and high calorie, right? That's what I meant, calorically dense. So, for example, a serving of pistachios is like a shot glass worth of pistachio. Do you know anyone that eats a shot glass of nuts? I just want to sit there and eat half the bag, right? Because they're delicious. And oh, isn't it interesting? They're peeled. Like we don't have to sit there and work for it like you used to have to, right? So we're not meant to be eating handfuls and handfuls of nuts, and that did hinder me in the first month. I didn't know what to eat. I was like, what do I do? So I just kept going to nuts. If you need to satiate yourself in the middle of this process, a little MCT oil, a little coconut oil, a little bite of some, a little butter on a piece of meat, right down the hash, a little tiner bite, that can just hold you over for hours. The thing is to test it. Like sometimes when I'm craving something or I'm hungry, I'm like, or am I just thirsty and dehydrated? And sometimes I'm just thirsty. Sometimes I'm really craving crap, but then I'm like, and I'll go to the protein first. And after eating the protein, I'm like, oh no, I wasn't. I just needed to get satiated somehow. And my body was like searching for energy. So one of the best moves is to always eat the protein first. Eat a couple bites of the steak first before getting into the dinner salad, right? Like eat the protein first. It will satiate you and prevent you from making shitty choices further on in that meal or evening or day. So, protein and produce is the key. Blueberries and berries are low sugar fruits. Stay away from the bananas and things like that during this time, especially if you're struggling with weight and you really need to change it around. But this is not to say you're counting calories. Okay. And you might go, well, how do I know? Well, listen, you can get an app that gauges your macros. You can look, there's paleo apps, there's keto apps, there's so many apps that you can do if you really want to track all of your macros. I find that it becomes a problem. It's unnatural. I don't want to track everything. It's smart at first because you need to know how many carbs are in that. Like I should fucking learn. But once you've kind of gathered, usually we kind of eat similar foods over and over again, right? We have our favorites, we have our things we're eating regularly throughout the day. Maybe even people eat the same lunch every day. Like my mom eats the same chicken salad every day. So when you're doing things like that and you have things that are consistent, it's way better. But because of those limited food choices, you should pretty quickly learn what they are. You should start to learn, oh, I eat chicken breast every day. I go, well, how much protein is in that? Right? Is it 40 grams? Is it 50? How many carbs are in that? That way you kind of know, and then you only need to Google it if you're out and you're like, gee, haven't had okra in a while. Maybe I need to, let's how many carbs, not that you would need to gauge how many carbs were in okra, but you know what I'm saying. So getting to know some carbs, eyeing the protein or getting to know how much protein is in something, so at least you know you're getting enough in the day. Eating that first, sticking with the low carb berries, and substituting grains for potatoes, things like that. You can make your own fries. You can make scalloped potatoes, mashed potatoes, sweet potato fries. There's so many great things you can do with potatoes. That's a healthier move than the grains. All right. And let's see. If you want a couple of really great coaches on this who could just take you right there if you want them to do your particular food stuff, is Barbara Diaz de Leon, uh, DE and then LEON, Barbara Diaz de Leon. She's a registered nurse. She's a former client of mine. She's also the author of Feel Great in 28. She's 58 years old, walks the walk. She knows what to do about food, and she knows paleo. Same with Elizabeth Resnick. She's happy, healthy, and hot on Instagram. She's got a couple of cookbooks. She's a double certified weight loss coach. She's also 57 and rocking a bikini every day. These are women who really know what they're doing, and they have proven it by the way that they look. Barbara is more into lean muscle mass. She's definitely more, I would say, buff than Elizabeth. So if you're looking for, not to be buff, but I'm saying if you're looking for more of like, I want to get more into some like actual, substantial training, Barbara's your chick. Elizabeth is really good with anything like at home that you want to do, minimal, things that are not too impactful on the joints and things like that. And she's also great with getting together your macros and working out an eating plan for you as well. So both of those women are fantastic. And again, older, walking the walk, killing it. I don't know that I want to get health advice from a 20-year-old. Do you know what I mean? I want to see the person that's gone through all the stages of fucking life and they're still looking good and feeling good. What the fuck did they do? That's who that's what I want to listen to. Right? If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, l@ellruss.com. Don't forget, I've got a great freethyroidguide.com if you want to look at some free paleo recipes, even if you don't have a thyroid problem. You can just unsubscribe to my thyroid emails after that. And then also have a confidence ebook and workbook that's pretty substantial. If you're having issues in that area, get on that. Just got a great review the other day from a student in my confidence course. If you need to gain confidence, you feel like you need to be a little bit more of a badass in life and get your shit ignited, you might want to take a look at my confidence course, because now it comes with a extra course, my Communicate course for speaking, self-promotion, and writing. It just comes with it. And it's really low cost. It's like 14 hours. It's badass. I really packed a lot into that thing and made it very inexpensive because I know this is something people want more of all the time. And, I want it to be accessible to a lot of people. So ellruss.com to check out courses, also thyroid coaching or life coaching. There's all the tabs for that. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I'll see you next week. Hey, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this show, I would so appreciate you leaving a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And to learn more about partner discounts on amazing products, visit ellruss.com/discounts.